Okay, so today we're going to talk about the GLV system and the main components of the GLV system that we got here in the diner room. The first two things you're going to see are the user interface for the GLV system. There's the exterior panel and the interior panel. The exterior panel consists of the buttons that are on the outside of the car. The interior panel consists of the buttons in the cockpits as well as the LEDs. So here we have a couple switches that control, and as well as some switches that control inside. They all do control stuff for the safety loop. The other aspects of the GLV system include all the wiring that goes from here to here. So this is the GLV box. Now in the GLV box, we have our GLV board as well as all the connectors on the outside. And we're going to talk about those now in a little more detail. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the GLV interconnect. This is arguably the most challenging and most important part of the system. If this box is not connected to anything, it doesn't do anything. As we mentioned, there's two connector panels on each of these, and all of these are Deutsch DT04 connectors of varying pin numbers. You can see this, for example, has 6 pins. I'm not sure you can actually see because the camera's out of focus. This has 3. 4 is our safety loop connector. And all these wires were meticulously made so that they are strain released. You can see these wires go around to the front where they connect to the actual control panels. For example, this is the cockpit connection, which we have made and now messily wired, but will be cleaned up on the back there. Just a word of advice while moving forward through any of your projects in this car, focus on interconnect. It's one of the hardest parts of this whole task and will give you more trouble than anything else. So focus on that first. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the actual GLV box. You can see here, this is one side of the box where we have a couple connectors. All these connectors are labeled to explain where they connect to. We also have a screen, as you saw previously on the front, that shows the voltage, amperage, power, and energy going into the box and over time. We also have our 2 circuit breakers. There's a 15 amp one and an 8 amp one. 8 amp one is for the power that goes to all the GLV subsystems as well as our own system. And the 15 amp is a front circuit breaker to monitor all the current that comes into the GLV box. On the other side of the box, over here on this side, there is another panel that we're going to take a look at. I'm just going to swing this around because it's a little bit of an odd spot. I don't think you're going to be able to see. It's right here. So you can look for yourself. It has more connectors on it that go to various parts of the system. And that should all be explained in our high-level diagrams. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about the inside of the GLV box. Okay, so this is the inside of the GLV box. Here we have our wire list. And here we have our wiring diagram. These wire numbers are labeled on the actual wires and they show A to B connections. Inside the actual box, we have 4 main components really in the box. There's the GLV BOD is this big green board right here. We have a little patch of DIN rail. These are grounding connections. The yellow and green one connects to chassis ground. There's conductors that connect directly to the DIN rail. Up here we have a CAN to USB connector. This should connect to the Pi via USB. It connects here and comes from our board. And we also have the internals of all the connectors on the outside panels that we previously showed you. The wiring here is obviously a little bit messy. It's all red wire, which is unfortunate. However, it's all labeled and it should be easily figurable out if you just take a while to go through all this stuff.
Alright, we're going to walk you through the steps of activating the safety loop all the way to the airs in the dyno room. To start the 24 volt supply, you need to press the GLV button up top, which is this one, and assure that this is already pressed to the on state, and you can see this voltage, current, power, and energy monitor turns on. And then the next thing to do is turn on the GLV master switch, which provides power to the entire subsystems and our board and box. So by switching that and by assuring that both e-stops are not pressed, you can see GLV power, the power LED turns on. The next step would be the safety loop 1 and 2 that runs through all subsystems is currently jumpered. You can see the fault light is off currently, but if we pull out that jumper from safety loop 1 to 2, you can see that the fault light is now on. So as soon as he puts that jumper back in, which looks like this, that fault light will turn off, as you can see. Now we have passed all subsystem checks. We are ready to completely come to the last step of the safety loop, which happens by hitting the first master reset. As you can see, this safety loop LED is now on. The TSV master switch is off. We are now in the cockpit of the safety loop. You can see that you can make sure the driver e-stop is off and press the driver reset. Now we're at the last stage. If we turn the TSV master switch, power to the airs will turn on, as you can see. Now we have all three LEDs from GLV power to safety loop to airs. And if packs were connected, airs would open at this point. And we can push driver e-stop. That'll turn the airs off, and we'll have to go back through driver reset, and TSV master switch is already on. If we push the top e-stop, that shuts the entire system down. So all subsystem power, all safety loop, and the airs will all turn off. And when you can step back through. Okay, so hopefully troubleshooting will not be an issue for our GLV system, but if it is, the first thing that would go wrong would most likely be something inside of the box. Wires can come loose of screw terminals. They're not the best connections. Hopefully you'll be replacing it with actual physical connectors, but if not, then these screw terminals are where you would like to look first and compare to our wiring sheet and wire list to make sure everything's properly plugged in, nothing's accidentally shorting, nothing's accidentally left unplugged in here, and then you can proceed on to the actual physical panels or connections to the panels.